Everybody, welcome to my channel, Be Free Now with Maria. So today I'm going to start out with this deck, the Untethered Soul. I shuffled it and I'm going to pick the card on top and let's see what it says. It says, nothing ever is worth closing your heart over. Love that. You know, lots of times we experience disappointments in life. And those disappointments lead to hurts, hurt feelings. And those hurt feelings we start to use them as a guide, to help us protect ourselves. But what we really do is block ourselves. We close our hearts because this experience, right, that we have had isn't necessarily guiding us, towards the light or towards something peaceful. What it's doing is it's guiding us deeper and deeper into our shadow space. And what that means is that we take this experience or disappointment and we think, okay, I'm not going to do this next time because then I'm going to get hurt, right? And we close our hearts. We tend to think that somehow we're going to continue having this disappointment or these emotions that we don't like. And so then we try to prevent them. And in trying to prevent them, we close our hearts, we close ourselves off. And we do it under the guise of, using our experiences as a guide. I'm sorry, my phone is ringing. Let me shut that off. But it's an illusion. It's not necessarily helping us keep ourselves safer, because not having emotions isn't the same as being safe. And we're combining two things that don't necessarily match and they're not even in the same category. So staying safe, would require, let's say, for example, looking both ways, right, before we cross the street, right? That's one thing that we can do to try and prevent something that we don't want to happen. But not allowing ourselves to experience love or to be open in relationships, that's not necessarily keeping us safer. It's keeping us locked in. And that's the difference, between both of them. It's safer looks like one thing and closing off our hearts is something else. And we want to be careful with that because we mean well, right? We want to have good experiences as people. We want to feel happy and have a good life. But if we're closing off our hearts, we're not going to experience that joy, that happiness that we're seeking. And when I say we're seeking, I mean in general, right? Generally speaking, right, we all want to feel good. We all want to feel happy. We all want to have, right, nice experiences. But the reality is that experiences can look like, it can show up in many different ways, right? It can look many different ways. And if we use those experiences and close ourselves off because of them, in other words, get so overwhelmed with the disappointment or the emotions that we feel, we're going to block ourselves. I'm going to close off our hearts. And then, we're going to create these stories about why we do what we do. But the reality is that, right, we're trying to protect ourselves from having these hurts. The hurts, are here to teach us, and we can learn how to navigate. But we can't necessarily, stop them by closing off our hearts. We stop them by separating from the illusion that we somehow can't manage our emotions and that everything that's happening in the moment is in the linear way that we're seeing it. There's more to it. In other words, we can use that experience and look at it, right, through a spiritual lens and create, something with that. Or we can look at it as this, firm thing that has happened and that has no other possible meaning or growth to it. So shifting, right? Being aware that our psyche is trying to protect us, but not necessarily giving us the accurate perception, right? So then we walk into the world of illusions, and that's what we have to be mindful of when we are closing off our hearts and thinking of it as protecting ourselves, because it's not really protection, it's really locking ourselves up in some way, shape, or form. So before I go any further, I do have another deck that I love, and I shuffled as well, and I want to pick a card from. So it's the Don Miguel Ruiz deck, the Four Agreements. I shuffled it. I'll pick the card on top and see what it inspires me to share in relation to this message. Okay, so it says, let go of self-judgment and blame. I feel like I got this card recently. Okay, self-judgment and blame. Being impeccable. You take responsibility for your actions, but you don't judge or blame yourself for anything. I love that, because we tend to blame ourselves when we do something that we think we shouldn't have done, right? We regret that, right? We like, I wish I didn't say that or didn't do that. And we become very harsh with ourselves. And when we're very harsh with ourselves and we blame ourselves, we then tend to take that with, into our relationships with other people. In other words, we're harsh on ourselves, we're harsh on other people, and that creates a block in our relationships as well. And then that's how we hold ourselves hostage. When we are gentler with ourselves, when we practice self-forgiveness, then, right, we are able to also show that to somebody else. In other words, if we're compassionate with ourselves, we can be compassionate with somebody else. If we can let any anger or regrets that we hold on to, or any self-blame, self-judgment, then we are able to release others. In other words, we don't have this expectation of being perfect. We allow ourselves, right, to be human. In other words, we make space for that, and then we allow others to be human as well. And we're able to make more room for their humanness as well. And then instead of seeing them a certain way and thinking that we need to protect ourselves or treat them a certain way, we are able to allow, right, their humanness to be. And that creates more peace in our relationships, because there's more peace within ourselves. So if we have it here, we give it here. It's like a trickle-down effect, right? A ripple effect when we are able to be more compassionate with ourselves. So taking responsibility is a key point, right? It's a key point because we want to recognize, right, that we have an ability to create something for ourselves, and to also create, so we can create it within ourselves, and we can also create it externally. We have the ability to do that, and we want to remember that so that we can empower ourselves, or else we're going to find ourselves feeling powerless in this thing called life. In other words, like, things are happening and we have no power over it, we have no control over it. But that's not 100% true. We have choices and resources available to us, and options that we can use to help us navigate this thing called life, right? And to be able to shift so that we can create more of what it is that we want, and not close off our hearts. Because when we close off our hearts, it's almost like we're cutting off our own circulation, or cutting off our own breath, and we don't want to do that, because we're not going to feel good in that space. We want to be more open, but in order to be more open, we have to start expanding, right, how we're looking at our current situation or the current experience that we're dealing with, so that we don't get locked into it. All right, so I'm going to end with that. I hope that this video helps you in some way. If it did, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel so that you can be notified when I upload further videos. And if you want to learn more about the work that I do, you can visit my website, and all the information is down in the description below. All right, bye for now.